And thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk. I'm Maria Moreau. We're following right now what looks like a massive tree that has fallen onto a home. This is on Mentel Drive in Northeast Atlanta. You can see some of that visual here for you, just the tree clearly onto the roof of the house. You can see we have our crews on scene. This is a live picture from our Atlanta News First crew bringing you this coverage. This happening just as we're about to head into a weekend with some scattered showers. You can expect those. Our First Alert weather team has been updating you on that all morning. But as you can see here, this tree has fallen onto this home on Mentel Drive in Northeast Atlanta. I can pull up another visual here. Just some of those roots that came up as well, and you can see the extent of the tree onto the roof of the house and the damage done from that fall. So this is something we're going to continue to monitor here for you. Any updates that we hear from our crew on the ground, as well as our communication with the authorities responding to this scene, we will have for you live on here. I want to take a second to show you just exactly where this is located. I'm going to drop my graphic here, zoom in for you a little. This is Mentel Drive Northeast. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Mentel Drive. You can't exactly see where that tree crashed, but this is a Google Maps visual for you. I'm going to zoom out a little just so you can see where in Atlanta this is. This is right up here in Northeast Atlanta, just up higher than the world of Coca-Cola. But if we zoom back in, find my little pinpoint here, this residential neighborhood, this is where the tree fell onto one of these houses along Mentel Drive at Northeast. I'm going to try to pull up another map for you, give you a better visual, but let's get back to that live shot here. You can see that tree fallen onto the home. This again is on Mentel Drive in Northeast Atlanta. And I did just hear that here at the top of the noon hour, in about 10 minutes, we'll be hearing from our reporter, Don Shipman. This is actually a live shot for you from our Atlanta News First crew. Don is on the ground right now talking to some of the residents that are impacted, some of the officials that are on the ground responding to this. Right now, we do know that no injuries have been reported. We are waiting for any information that might develop out of this, but I did manage to pull up a bit of a street view here. As you can see, this is a pretty residential area, a quiet neighborhood it appears to be, but you can see several of these trees that are around on this road right here, and looking back at this one that clearly fallen onto a home, damaging the roof. I wish I could zoom in for you here, but you can see damage just even from this angle that I'm showing you right now. That roof clearly impacted by the tree, but take a look at the roots that came up. We are still trying to learn why exactly it came down on the house. Right now we know that no injuries have been reported. Again, our reporter Don Shipman is on the ground. We are going to try to connect with him here in about 10 minutes at the top of the noon hour. Now I see a few people might have just joined us. Wanted to get everybody caught up to speed and go through a little bit of what we know. Again, as you can see here, clear as day, a large tree has fallen onto a home in northeast Atlanta. This is Mentel Drive. It's a residential area, quiet neighborhood, but that tree coming down on the home, heavy damage to the roof from what it appears. I imagine more damage to the interior of the house that we'll learn from our reporter Don Shipman, who is on the ground right now. He's talking to residents, really those impacted by this fallen tree, and we are going to connect with him at the top of the noon hour. But while I have you guys here for the next 7 minutes, I do want to take you through, when we started learning this and what we know right now. The biggest part of this news, and probably the best news, is that no injuries were reported. That is always a good thing. Nobody has been injured from what we've been told by officials. But let's take you to this live video I had earlier today. I'll bring that sound down. Give me one moment, guys. All right. Bringing you back out to this video here that we have from our Atlanta News First Chopper, taking you over the home, kind of showing you a different angle here from what we had. Again, this was our chopper flying over the house. You can see how massive the tree is. That's something that you couldn't even see from the angle I just showed you of our live camera. You can see the extent of the damage to the home and just how far it landed. Again, no injuries have been reported. Some good news there. We do have our crew on the ground talking to some of the residents that might have been impacted by this, talking to the responding emergency crews that are on scene right now. And again, we will connect with our reporter Don Shipman, try to get a few updates from him while he has been on the ground responding to this. As soon as we heard about this tree crash, we did head to the scene. This is a little bit of that visual for you, just in the initial moments that tree came down. Take a look at that. Can you imagine? I mean, some of us here live in those same neighborhoods, those quiet suburban neighborhoods just outside of Atlanta. We all are surrounded by trees. This is something that always usually unexpected, but can happen at any moment. And the good news in this situation is that no injuries were reported. We are trying to learn the extent of the details surrounding this scene, specifically how the tree fell. That's what a lot of people want to know right now, and the extent of the damage that it caused to the home. We can safe to assume that the roof was damaged in the situation. You saw that tree come straight down onto the roof, but we do want to get you details on the exact extent of the damage, which we will work to hear from officials about. Of course, we also checked in if anybody was injured, and we were told by officials that no injuries were reported, which is a great thing in the situation like this, because you see just how massive that tree is. Take a look at that and the way it fell onto the home, just really covering it fully. It's worth mentioning our reporter Don Shipman is on the ground right now. We're going to be hearing from him here at the top of the noon hour during our Atlanta News First newscast. We'll be checking in with him, see if he has any updates. But what we're waiting to hear more about is how this tree fell. You know, we're headed into a rainy weekend. We heard from our First Alert weather team there's going to be some scattered showers as soon as Saturday heading into Sunday. So that's something that can always have an effect on this. But In this case, we know that this tree fell onto the home with clear weather, not an obvious sign of a weather impact. What we don't know at this time is the cause of why that tree fell. So we are going to wait to hear that from officials. I have said earlier, I'll say it again, we do know that there are investigators on the ground responding to the scene, as well as our reporter Don Shipman, who's talking to some of the nearby residents. We'll be hearing more from him in just a few minutes.
All right, so yeah, you're right. This is a massive tree. We're on Mentel Drive. This is right in Midtown. We're not too far from Midtown High School, just off of Charles Allen Drive. I want you to come on over here because, first of all, you can see that there's a water main break as well right here due to this tree, all that root system there. And then I want to kind of give you some perspective on how huge this tree is. The root system there, I am 6'3", so you can see how big it is right there. And then up on top of the house, you can see the tree on top of the house, crushing that house. Here's what I've been learning from some of the neighbors who live in this area. I just got done talking with a woman who lives just about 3 doors up. She says that she was in her home office. She works from home. And right around 8:15 this morning, she heard that crash. She heard the tree come crashing down. She tells me that no one lives in the house, and she says that the owner lives out of state. At this point, they're trying to get in contact with the owner. Also, at this point, I don't see any city officials here, fire department or anything like that, or the water department. People who live in the neighborhood said that they have called, or they heard other people had called, so still waiting to get confirmation on if city officials are even aware that this has happened. But again, a massive tree just off of Charles Allen Drive in this Midtown neighborhood. This area has tons of big, beautiful trees, and this one right here fell on top of this house early this morning. We'll continue to cover this for you and get you the latest information, but again, it doesn't look like anyone was hurt. Live here in Midtown, Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.
So there you just heard from our Don Shipman. I wanted to take you out to a graphic here I made while he was just giving us those updates, just the latest news on what we know. We'll recap some of that. So not only do we have a massive tree that has fallen onto that home, but now a water main break that has stemmed from that tree. You can see it's almost underneath the tree, as you saw in Don's report just moments ago. The good news, no injuries. We were told just now by our reporter Don that the home's owner lives out of state and that neighbors are working on trying to get in contact with the owner to let them know about the tree that had fallen onto the home and the damage that is clearly visible from that. But what we also know is that despite there being a water main break, we have not seen on the ground city officials responding to that water main break. That continues to be an active situation. So that is what we're going to hold out for updates, whether city officials are en route or whether they've been notified. We did hear from some neighbors that said that they tried to reach out to the correct responding city officials to address the water main break that could become a serious problem for the community. But for the time being, again, just to recap, there is an active water main break on Mentell Drive. This is in Northeast Atlanta after a large tree, clearly over 6-foot tree, fell onto the home, covering the entire home. Some damage visible to the roof. We imagine more damage to the interior of the house. We'll have to hear from officials what that exactly is in terms of the damage to the home. But the current situation for the community, really what a lot of those residents are looking to is the response time on that water main break as water continues to spill out. Taking you back out to this here, the picture that I was showing you earlier on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. Look at the way that tree just covers the entire home, again, on Mentell Drive, just the branches extending into neighboring homes as well, but the most damage done to the roof of the house with that tree falling straight down. Here's a closer look at that damage for you and that water main break I was just talking about. That is going to continue until city officials are able to arrive on the ground and respond to that. We do know for the time being that neighbors have attempted to reach out, but no sign of responding crews for that water main break. We're going to continue to update you on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, as well as our Atlanta News First app, looking out to those Mentell Drive residents, seeing if they are able to get that response that they say they've reached out for regarding the water main break. For now, I'm Maria Moreau.